Welcome again to my YouTube channel. This is Minister Edgar Rice with Spiritual Principles Through African American History. These are little known African American history stories that will inspire, encourage, and entertain. And these stories will show you that with God, all things are possible and that God has a plan for all of our lives. This is a story about the amazing Mr. Bill. I really enjoyed learning about this person that I'm talking about today, and I remember when we first got TV back in 1958. I know a lot of you all always had televisions, but back then a lot of people didn't have televisions. The main shows we watched were the cowboy movies, The Lone Ranger, Lash LaRue, Have Gun Will Travel, Roy Rogers, The Rifleman, and Bonanza. And guess what? There weren't any black cowboys. I didn't learn until much later that a significant number of cowboys were black, and that the greatest cowboy to ever ride the range was a black cowboy. But first, there was a long and documented history of black cowboys. There were at least 5 Africans that rode with the Spanish in 1598 when they imposed Spanish rule on New Mexico. The cattle industry was created by hard work, talent, and a doggone never-give-up attitude. African Americans, Native Mexicans, and Europeans worked together to get it started. The original trail language was Mexican Spanish. There were such words as lariat, morale, feed bag, bustle, which was rope, chaps, and rodeo. The word for 10-gallon hat was sombrero, galeonado. Cowboys were first called by the Spanish word vaqueros. Then came the English word drover. And finally cowhand. And how did the word cowboy come about? It's said that whites wanted to show disrespect for the black cowboy. The great age of the cattle crew started in Texas after the Civil War. So they called them cowboys. We had 5 million, after the Civil War, 5 million free-roaming cattle that had to be corralled. Then the cattle trade became very lucrative when beef jumped from $30 to $40 a head. Wow. Cowboys were needed so bad that race usually wasn't an issue. The cattle industry even offered blacks equal wages. One famous trail was the Goodnight Loving Trail. Charles Goodnight and Oliver Loving charted this cattle trail to New Mexico, Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana. Bose Icard, born a slave in 1847, helped them chart that trail in 1866. And at 19, Icard was already an expert at riding, roping, and shooting. Goodnight called him the most skilled and trustworthy man he had. He said Icard was dignified, clean, and reliable. He also said he was good in a fight, and he trusted him more than any living man, a black man. There were thousands of black cowboys who drove cattle from 1865 to 1890. It's estimated that there were 35,000 cowboys, and of that number, at least 9,000 were black. Even though Hollywood totally left us out, it was a hard, tedious, dangerous, and lonely life. Although there was discrimination, it wasn't as much as in other types of work. Trail life was hard. Many of those black cowboys were tough as rusty nails and mean as a bag of rattlesnakes. One was a legendary cowhand, Jess Rumley. His friends called him Flip because they said when he hit you, you would flip. And that was black or white. Then there was Henrietta William Foster. She was a cowhand. They said a man raped her once, and she didn't go to the law. She killed him herself. Race discrimination showed up when wagon trains started coming. The appearance of white wives and daughters was the major cause. The larger and more established the the more segregation and discrimination. The main reason was the fear of black men and white women getting together. But today I would like to focus on the greatest cowboy to ever live. You might have heard of him. He was Mr. Bill Pickett. Maybe you've heard of him, but probably not. He was a mentor to cowboy movie stars Will Rogers and Tom Mix. Although Pickett was the greatest cowboy ever, Hollywood didn't even consider him in a movie. Zach Miller owned the huge 101 ranch in Oklahoma. He said that Pickett was the greatest sweat and dirt cowboy to ever live. That was an understatement. Pickett was even better than that. Pickett was the man who invented the famous rodeo event of bulldogging. Of the 8 competitive events, there's only one invented by an individual. You ride your horse behind a running steer, and then you jump off and you grab the steer by the horns and you flip him. Pickett noticed a bulldog once that jumped up and grabbed the steer by the lip with his teeth. It made the 2,000-pound steer compliant. And that's why Pickett's event is called bulldogging. No other human has ever performed like Pickett. After he flipped the steer, he would dance around to the front of the steer, then he would grab the steer's lip with his teeth. And with outrageous flair, hold his arms out in the air with nothing else touching. The crowd would go wild. It was said that Pickett did it with such ease, he looked like a ballet dancer. Pickett was born in 1870. His parents were poor, black Cherokee Indians. He was number 2 of 13 children. Pickett only had a 5th grade education. In 1890, he married Maggie Turner and they had 9 children. In 1901, he joined the Miller brothers' famous 101 Ranch Wild West show. He trained and had as his assistants Will Rogers and Tom Mix, the movie stars, the 2 guys who became famous cowboy movie stars. Pickett performed in Texas, Mexico, Argentina, Canada, and all over Europe. Pickett even learned to speak a high grade of German. How big do you think Pickett was? He was only 5 feet 7 and 145 pounds of nothing but pure muscle. They said Pickett was so agile that he glided through the air like a ballet dancer. Bill Pickett brought Wild West entertainment to the world. He even performed in front of kings and queens. I think it's time for us to bring the gospel to the world also. Do you know how godless we are in America? Other countries are now sending missionaries to America, and I'm not mad at them. These are exciting times, and this could be the end of the age. The fields are white and ready for the harvest. Will we step up to the challenge? I believe my life is better because I know Yahushua. That's Jesus. And I think all desperate and broken folk need to know what I know. That their lives will be better off. That he heals all hurts. And he gives peace when you're in your bed at night when nobody else knows your thoughts but God. I heard a preacher say, in that lonesome midnight hour, people are searching for what we already know. If you are what you call a Christian, a Messianic. It said that all humans have a hole in our hearts that's in the shape of Yahushua, Jesus. Malachi said, and this gospel shall be preached in all the world first, and then shall the end come. And I want to be part of that. And I know you do too. Yeshua, Jesus said, when he comes back, will he find faith? And will we be working? After all, that is the Great Commission. Our marching orders are to bring folk to Christ, Yahushua HaMashiach. Look at the Jehovah's Witnesses. They are weird, but they get folks every day, and that's because they have a system. And I think that all Christians should have a system also. That was a study done. And someone asked these people, why did they give to charitable organizations? They said because somebody asked them. We must start asking because we have to be about our Father's business. Bill Pickett, he died in 1932. He slipped down in a barn and a stallion kicked him in the head. In 1971, Pickett became the first African American inducted into the Cowboy Hall of Fame in Oklahoma City. And in 1987, Woody Strode, the black actor, officiated at the unveiling of a bronze statue of Pickett bulldogging a steer. That was in my hometown of Fort Worth, Texas, at the Cowtown Museum. And here's what Colonel Miller wrote about Bill Pickett. This is what he wrote. He said, "He left a blank that's hard to fill, for there never will be another Bill. Both black and white will mourn the day that the biggest boss took Bill away." Mr. Bill Pickett must be, and he has to be, indeed he should be, one of my African American heroes. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like. And also my books with more exciting stories are ready to order and linked in my bio from Amazon.